Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Welcome to an extremely exciting and extremely special episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Now, I know that I'm doing an extra episode in 1 week, but there is a very special reason. Because this isn't just any ordinary episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. This is the special 90-second Academy Awards review of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And things are gonna go a little bit differently. Like, first and foremost, I just need to clarify that this will be a shorter episode than usual. I know usually I would go and run these episodes at 90 minutes up to over 2 hours and stuff like that, but there's not all that much to talk about here, considering that I'm just discussing about one big subject in particular, so this will be shorter than usual. But with that said, what is it specifically that I will be talking about the Oscars this year? Well, I am going to be cutting it down to 3 different categories in which I will go and discuss. First and foremost, I will get into the animation categories, which ones have won Best Animated Short and also for Best Animated Feature, because there is definitely a lot to go and discuss about right over here this year. And then after that, I will go and discuss about the other winners, all the different winners that have won the Oscar this year, and all the big surprises that ended up happening. And then finally, after all that, I will go and discuss about the show itself. How did this year's Oscars ceremony go compared to some of the other years? And I will say right now that I am actually quite surprised that I still do have an audience, considering that I am doing it at a different time, but still, at least we do have some people, so at least we can have some fun. So, with all that said and done, are we all ready to get things started and talk about this year's Academy Awards? Chadwell, are you ready for this? Let me hear it. Alright. Oh boy, I'm glad to see that the excitement is still on, that people are still ready. That is great to hear. It's exciting to see that. And now, let us go and get things started. And now, let's get into the Academy Awards, which, by the way, I will be using my source with Wikipedia to talk about my entire subject. And I know some people might think, well, Wikipedia, isn't that not a reliable source? Yes, I know. But I'm mostly going to be using the Wikipedia page here of the 92nd Academy Awards because there is a lot of footnotes to give me a little bit of a reminder of stuff that did happen. And keep in mind, my memory is still fresh, considering that as I am recording this, and as I am live streaming this as well, the Oscars are last night, so my memory is still fresh from what I have witnessed. But anyways, now with all that out of the way, let's go and start things off by discussing about the animation segment of the Academy Awards, which I will say, I'm actually quite surprised that the Oscars just started things off with the animation categories right off the bat. And may I say, though, that this is the most respectable that the Oscars has been to animation in a very, very long time. It's actually quite impressive the way that, for once, they actually did treat animation with respect, because in the previous years at the Oscars, they mostly just use it as like a little throwaway category, mostly just portraying it with a fun little speech, like either just as a dumb joke or as, just portraying it as like a fun little kids genre, emphasizing of how kids would go and enjoy these movies and all that kind of stuff. But in here, however, it's a little bit different because we did have Mindy Kaling step in, and she talked about animation in a surprisingly respectful way, portraying it as in her words, portraying it as a sophisticated storytelling medium. And yeah, she did go a little bit into the child aspect and growing up and stuff like that, but still, like, it is still portraying animation in a very respectful way. So I do have to give major props to the Academy for actually respecting animation for once, and also major props to Mindy Kaling for that great presentation. But that's not necessarily here what we're talking about. With all the presenters and the show itself, I'm saving that for much later. Let's go ahead and talk about the winners, in which I will start things off with Best Animated Short Film, which this year, the winner was Hair Love. And I will say that I was pretty bad this year because, admittedly, I did forget to go and check out all the nominees for Best Animated Short. I did see Kid Bull, of course, because it's on Disney+, and I already saw Hair Love because I did go see it on the big screen when it was on just before the Angry Birds movie 2, but I did forget to do the rest. But then again, it doesn't necessarily matter at this point because I did see Hair Love, and if you guys know me, then you know that I absolutely adore Hair Love. It's one of the very rare animated shorts that immediately I just fell in love with it, and it made a huge impact on me. Well, more like it made a great emotional impact when watching it, and it's very rare for an animated short to actually go and do that to me. Like, the last time that it did happen was actually last year with the animated short One Small Step. Like, I was rooting for that one all the way to win because it was such a great, well-crafted, and especially very heartfelt animated short that did tear me up a bit. But unfortunately, it did not win. The winner last year was Pixar's Bao, which was a great animated short as well, and it was my second pick, but my first pick was definitely One Small Step. This year, however, I feel like there was a little bit of a retribution to that because now Hair Love, which is equally as heartfelt as One Small Step, that ended up becoming the big winner. And of course, the acceptance speech as well, talking about encouraging inclusivity in animated projects, not just animated films, but just animated projects as well, considering that Hair Love technically does have an African-American cast. And like, watching it, it was just absolutely beautiful. And just like with One Small Step, I remember seeing it on the big screen. I absolutely loved it, and it teared me up so much. And especially with the layer upon layer upon layer that it would keep introducing new things to make it more heartfelt and really show this very touching story about a dad who wants to help out his daughter to, you know, make her hair look great. And especially, like, at the end, I'm not going to spoil it because you definitely need to go and check it out. I believe you can go and see it for free. In fact, I do believe Sony Pictures Animation did actually put it up for free on YouTube for you to go and check it out. So if you haven't seen it yet, please go see it because it is such an amazing animated short, and I'm so glad that it did actually win. I do have a feeling that even if I did go and see, like, the other animated shorts like DeSera or Memorable or Sister, I would still probably root for Hair Love because it really is that good. And again, very rare of me to actually really connect and really rooting for one specific animated short to win. So I'm really glad that Hair Love won. And I just want to say congratulations, major congratulations to Matthew Cherry and his animation team and his entire crew on the project. You really did such an amazing job, and I'm glad to see that the project really rose up to the ranks to the point that it finally is known as an Oscar-winning short. And I gotta say, I don't know if this would be like a hot take or not, but this has to be an Oscar that, I know Sony only distribute it, but technically, I would even go and say that this is the Oscar that Sony Animation deserves the most, as much, or maybe even more, than Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It really is that good. But then, after that, there is the big one for animation, Best Animated Feature, in which the winner turned out to be Toy Story 4. Because I have stated this many times in the past recently, that it really was a gamble. Like, it really was a massive mystery. The first time in many, many years that the Best Animated Feature category was honestly a very tough call, and you never know who could actually win, especially after some of the big awards shows that were presented, where the winner for the Golden Globes, for example, it went to Missing Link. And then at the Annie Awards, the big winner was Klaus. And so this year, it ended up going to Toy Story 4, which, in my opinion, personally, I am really happy about it, because Toy Story 4, I would say, is my pick for Best Animated Feature, more so than How to Train Your Dragon, more so than I Lost My Body, more than Klaus, and more than Missing Link. It's my number one choice. I absolutely adore the feature. I personally feel like maybe it might not necessarily be the best of the Toy Story movies, but it's definitely in the same league as the previous three. It was very well done, and I really do admire the efforts that it did put in to continue the story after, like, essentially closing off the franchise with Toy Story 3, and they found a way to actually continue the story, that they found a way to add more into it and still make it as visually amazing and as heartfelt and as touching and very complex as well. Like, well written, well animated. Definitely is an amazing effort from Pixar, hands down. Really proving the doubters wrong to manage to do the impossible. So from there, I'm really glad that Toy Story 4 won, but it's not just that, not just because of my opinion on this, but also I find that there really is a beauty in all the awards that did win in this year in particular, where this isn't like any other year before, where usually it's just one animated feature that would go and sweep the awards, that it's just one animated film that would end up taking all the Best Animated Feature category one after another. It's not like last year when Spider-Man swooped in and took everything. Like, this year, it was pretty much divided upon many, but there are 3 animated features that walked off with the most. And what's actually more beautiful about it is the fact that these 3 animated features represent the 3 different animation mediums. First of all, you got Missing Link, which won Best Animated Feature for the Golden Globes and actually was a pretty big winner at the Visual Effects Society Awards as well. And that one, of course, is a stop-motion animated feature. Then after that, you got Klaus, a hand-drawn animated film, or at least a mostly 2D animated feature. And with Klaus, that ended up becoming the major winner at the Annie Awards, winning a total of 7 Annies and even winning a BAFTA award. And then finally, you got Toy Story 4, which is a computer animated feature. And that one ended up winning the Oscar for Best Animated Feature, along with a few others as well, like the Producers Guild Awards, the Critics' Choice Awards, and winning most of the Critics Association Awards as well, like from Chicago or Los Angeles or New York or whatever. So basically, those are the 3 big winners this year for all the different awards. And honestly, it's so beautiful to see such a diverse list of animated films that did win, especially when they do represent their different animation mediums. I find it, it feels very harmonious to see these 3 different films and these 3 different animation mediums winning everything. I don't know about you, but it just works out very well, and it really does emphasize about what animation should be. You know, it doesn't have to be represented by just one movie in particular. It could be just a wide variety. I would honestly much rather see something like this happen than like some of the previous years where there's just one movie that would go and sweep everything and that's it. I'm honestly really glad to see a diverse list of winners, and plus the fact that it would make like it would make the awards list a lot more unpredictable. Like you never especially like going through like the Golden Globes and the Annies and the Oscars and all that stuff, it really made things so unpredictable and more intense to know like who would actually be the winner. It's like it became a lot more of a guessing game. Like, is it like, yeah, some people might say, well, it's obviously going to be Toy Story 4 because Pixar and stuff like that. But this year, you have to ask, is it real? Like, would it really be Toy Story 4? Because, like, then you had Missing Link and then you had Klaus that actually did have a bit of a fighting chance. So, for me, that's what I find to be absolutely beautiful of the fact that Toy Story 4 won the Oscars, because it finally made the whole set complete. It made the whole atmosphere of like who won which awards feel a lot more harmonious, where now it's more spread out evenly than it is just more catered to just one animated film in particular. And from there is one more thing that I would like to discuss regarding the win about Toy Story 4. And for that, I just need to bring up something that I just found on Facebook today. It's actually a little meme that's more parodying The Emperor's New Groove. You know the scene where they're about to go down a waterfall and Pacha and Cusco are tied to this giant log? Here, let me just go and read this one for you. I just need to put the size a little bit more acceptable so you guys can actually see it. So let me just read this to you. Uh-oh. Don't tell me. Toy Story 4 won the Oscar instead of Klaus? Yep. Angry rants from the cartoon community on Twitter? Most likely. Bring it on. Yes, that is the big thing that I do need to bring up and that I do need to discuss a little bit, because as happy as I am that Toy Story 4 actually did win Best Animated Feature, it is actually a controversial win among the cartoon community, because while there are some that are actually really happy about it, there are some that are triggered, that they were massively upset that Toy Story 4 was the winner, because at least the grand majority of it, if not all the people that are upset, they were rooting for Klaus. They wanted Klaus to be the big winner at the Oscars, but that unfortunately did not happen, so the winner went to Toy Story 4. And from there, of course, you would see the typical rants about the Oscars or award shows when things don't necessarily go their way for the angry people at the cartoon community. And that's when the old comments would go and pop up about the Oscars that, oh my god, the Oscars are terrible, they're meaningless, they're all rigged, the judges are all idiots because they don't care about animation, Like, you see, like, I'm sure you've probably seen it, not just on Twitter, but on social media, that these comments keep popping up of angry members of the cartoon community just triggered of the fact that Klaus didn't win, and that they're making rants against the Oscars and how terrible they are and all that kind of stuff. Now, before I continue, I just would like to go and ask a question to all those people that are upset about the Oscars and claim that, oh, they're meaningless, that they have no point, and that the judges don't care about animation and stuff like that. I would like to bring up last year's big winner, about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You guys remember when Spider-Verse was the big winner in all the different awards, pretty much sweeping all the categories of Best Animated Feature. You guys remember that, right? Now, by the logic that these angry fanboys are doing right now, like these, according to these angry rants, technically, all those wins are pretty much meaningless. It doesn't matter if something like Spider-Verse ended up winning all these awards. It doesn't matter that if Spider-Man was proclaimed like a major winner of Best Animated Feature, beating out other movies like Incredibles 2 or Isle of Dogs or Ralph Breaks the Internet and stuff like that. It's all meaningless. It doesn't say anything about the quality of the movie itself. It doesn't really say anything. I mean, like they said, The judges are full-on idiots and they don't care about animation. They just vote for whatever would be popular, so it doesn't necessarily count if something like Spider-Verse would have a major win. It's no different than something like Disney or Pixar always winning the awards. It's pretty much the same thing. So by that logic, the fact that Toy Story 4 won is no different than Spider-Verse winning, right? All the Oscars are meaningless and it's just dumb and it's just pointless. You understand that logic, right? Now, I'm sure at this point some people in the cartoon community might find that they would disagree with me and they feel like that there is a meaning for Spider-Verse, because these rants against the Oscars right now, we have never seen that once last year. You've never seen people making rants about how stupid the Oscars are or how meaningless the Oscars are when Spider-Verse ended up getting their trophies, am I right? Well, my point with all that is that by 95% of the time, at least 95% of the time, when you would see people making rants about the Oscars and award shows and stuff like that, it is not because they care about the integrity of the Oscars or anything like that. They're just triggered and pissed off because their pick did not become the big winner, which in this case is Klaus. They're just pissed off of the fact that Klaus was not the big winner and that they did not get their little ego boost so that they could say that their movie that they like is better than all the others, that they don't have that moment of glory to say, screw all these other movies, they suck. It's a big meaningful thing that something like Klaus is the big winner. They don't have that pride. They don't have that little taste of being egotistical about it. And especially the fact that, considering that we are talking about Klaus, there is also the factor of the 2D animation element into it. Because let's be honest, the majority of the cartoon community, they're rooting for Klaus. It's just because of the fact that it is 2D animation. And you know how the cartoon community usually is. You know how desperate that they are, that they want to bring hand-drawn animation back to the mainstream, that they want to force companies like Disney and Pixar and DreamWorks to get back into hand-drawn animation, to have it be like how it is back in the old days, like back during their childhood, like back in the 90s and stuff like that. That they would constantly lie to themselves and try to develop this delusional fantasy in their heads that somehow, because of Klaus' existence, it somehow has this magical meaning that now it will force other companies to be more creative with their ideas and to actually go and make more hand-drawn animated features and be more experimental with their projects and stuff like that, which I will say, that is not true at all. It is a lie, and even the people saying it knows that as well. It's never gonna happen. And I will say, even if Klaus did actually win the Oscars, the meaning of it is no different than Toy Story 4 winning it. It's not going to make that big of an impact in the animation industry. It's not going to change any company's perspectives. It's not going to change their plans to somehow magically bring hand-drawn animation back. It is never gonna happen. So that's the big thing that I just need to go and point out. Now, of course, this is not to talk down against Klaus. Keep in mind, I really like that movie as well. I love what they did with the animation, I love what they did with the execution, and it definitely did deserve some of the awards that it got, like the BAFTA and some of the Annies and stuff like that. But I'm just here to say that, it's actually just like what I said in a previous episode of the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast regarding the cartoon community. The thing is, with the cartoon community, they don't care about the integrity of the award shows or anything like that. The only thing that they truly care about is their bias. And they're just pissed off at the Oscars right now because the Oscars did not cater to their bias. And to those people that are still massively upset that Klaus did not win and Toy Story 4 was the winner, the only thing I could say to you is just, calm down, dude. It's not going to change your perspective on any of the movies. It's not going to make, like, an Oscar is not going to change your mind about how Klaus is or about any of these movies in particular, okay? It's not going to change anything like that. So just calm down and shut up, because your rants and your attacks on Pixar and the Oscars and stuff like that, it's making the Klaus fan base toxic, okay? I need to go and point that out, because you know me, whenever the cartoon community is up to their stupid shenanigans, someone has to do the job of calling them out on this, and that I need to point it out that it is indeed a problem. So, with all that said and done, I would just like to go and give a major congratulations to the crew, to the team at Pixar, to Josh Cooley, and of course everyone at Pixar for their amazing win with Toy Story 4. Okay, so now that I got that out of my system, now I would like to go and pass on the mic to the chat wall, and I would like to ask you guys, how do you feel about the wins of Hair Love and Toy Story 4? Are you guys happy about it? Are you a little disappointed? Let me know what you all think of it. Okay, let's see here. I'm actually quite glad that... Oh, hold on a sec. Oh, wow, now the comments are popping in. All right, let's see. I'm actually quite glad that we got such a diverse amount of animated film winners for this year. It really shows the love and respect that animation deserves for a long time. Though you know what would make the cartoon community completely lose their marbles? The Lion King remake was nominated and won for Best Animated Feature category. The chaos would be insane. Oh, dude. I don't think that would be limited to just the cartoon community. I think it would make a massive uproar for the likes that we would never see. Like, it would be something that would even overshadow the backlash against not nominating the Lego Movie. Like, that would, like, there's definitely something that it could be much worse. Oh my god, like, they were close with the Golden Globes, but oh man, I couldn't even imagine the reactions if that were the case. Okay. Anyways, well, not surprised for animated short, but definitely one for the biggest races for animated feature in years. Also, who do you think was Best Animated Feature winner of the 2010 decade? Oh wait, you would say Zootopia based on your top 10 Best Animated Film of the 2010 decade, but who do you think was the Best Animated Short winner for the 2010 decade? Okay, well, number one, yes, you are right. I would say, like, the best of the decade is Zootopia for the 2010s. But, Best Animated Short... Oh, boy. Honestly, my memory is not as fresh for the animated shorts, so... Your guess is as good as mine. I don't think I can really answer that one, because, honestly... I don't know, actually. I don't think I'm qualified to even enter in that race. So I'm gonna do like Michael Eisner, and I'm just gonna announce and say that I didn't see all of them. I didn't see most of them, so I'm not gonna go and vote. So I just need to go and lay that out there. All right, let's see. I adore Klaus with a passion, but I'm glad that Toy Story 4 got the big win. In preparation for the awards, I went and watched the two nominees I didn't watch before, those being The Hidden World and I Lost My Bodies, and all 5 nominees are of the same quality. Hell, the weakest of the bunch was Missing Link, and even I would have been satisfied if I won. Exactly! I think that is one thing that people do forget whenever they would get upset or stuff like that, is that in this category right over here, like, for me, honestly, I'm happy that each of these animated features have actually won. Like, regardless of, like, who was the winner or who was nominated, they each were all crafted by a great team of artists and animators and filmmakers in which they each put in a great amount of effort into them. Like, regardless if it's something like Klaus or Toy Story 4, both movies were greatly crafted and had a lot of effort put into them. So I think that is one thing that people do forget when discussing about the winners and the nominees as well. And that's why, like, the outrage and the backlash of, oh, I wanted this one to win and stuff like that is honestly a bit ridiculous. Yeah, you may want this, you may want this movie to be the winner over the other, but that doesn't mean the other or the one you wanted to win didn't have much effort put into them. So I think that's one thing people did forget, during this Oscars. I think that's one thing people forget whenever they would go and rant. They would forget that, regardless if it's something like Toy Story 4 and Klaus, they all have a lot of great effort and a lot of animators who put their love and passion into them. So I think that's one thing that we need to go and emphasize on this. Let's see here. There might be a reason why this has been nicknamed the Pixar Awards, if I have permission to post a link to an article. Yeah, okay. Really, dude? Well, the thing is that, yeah, Pixar did win a lot, but I mean, it has, in fact, if you do look throughout the 2010s, Pixar didn't win necessarily all of them, in fact. I would say probably half of them, I would say, like, they got Toy Story, there was Toy Story 3, there was Brave, there was Inside Out, there was, not 2016, there was Coco, and then there was Toy Story 4. That's 5. Among, the 2010 decade, Pixar only got half of them. That, we shouldn't ignore the wins from either, like, Spider-Verse, or Rango, or Frozen, or Zootopia, or Big Hero 6. So I just want to say, so that's the thing. Like, yeah, it's another Pixar win, but still, at least that, it's not always Pixar that's the winner. People do forget people do often forget about that. Let's see. And honestly, I don't care, like, with whatever article. It's just, like, I don't freaking care. Like, yeah, like, if you want, like, if you're upset about, like, if you really are upset about Disney and Pixar, like, winning the most awards, like, if you're against Toy Story 4 winning just because you don't want to see a big win for either Disney or Pixar and stuff like that, that's called a studio bias. The problem is not the Academy, or the problem is not necessarily Disney and Pixar. The problem is you. You need to check on your bias on that. Alright, anyways, going back into this, let's see. Personally, I love Klaus as much as other people who have seen it, but I really don't see it as supposed to be superior as Toy Story 4. When thinking about it, Klaus is almost alike to the Rankin Bass Santa shorts with the comedy of The Emperor's New Groove, but done realistically. I say Toy Story 4 really deserves it, and it's an amazing movie and saga altogether. So, major congrats to the writers, directors, animators, and actors, and Randy Newman for such a wonderful movie this year. And overall, with that is just your opinion, and that's perfectly okay with it. No different than mine or anyone else's. So, that's your opinion, and that's perfectly fine with that, And I do agree with your opinion on that. Let's see, what else do we got here? The animation community are the most selfish and disrespectful people on the internet. Well, then again, so are many other communities. Like, a lot of them are no different, but your statement is definitely true on that. Anyways, all they do is complain, and that's it. Anyways, major congrats to Pixar for their success. This year for Pixar will be interesting. Onward, Soul. These are interesting films that we are getting this year. Keep up the great work, Pixar. As for Hair Love, yeah, we all knew it will get it. Also, congratulations to the filmmakers of Hair Love as well. Man, this Oscars are not disappointing. Alright, and I think with all that, that's pretty much, I think I'm gonna go and settle on that for the animation stuff, because we definitely do have a lot more to go and discuss. Alright, so, now with the animation categories out of the way, let us now go and discuss about all the other categories, in which, let's go and immediately discuss about the big winner, which honestly was very much unexpected. The big one was none other than Parasite, which also walked away with the most awards this year, in which, I'm also going to use my Oscar ballot to go and use as a source. considering that it also, like, points out, like, the winners and stuff like that. But yes, in terms of Parasite, it won 4 Oscars for, of course, Best International Feature Film. I think that one is the most obvious right there. Probably the most predictable among all the categories here. So yeah, Best International Feature Film. It won for Best Original Screenplay. It won for Best Director for Bong Joon-ho. And also, it won the big one. It is this year's Best Picture. And the thing is, with Parasite, the big reason why people are freaking out is mainly because this is full-on history in the making. This is the first time ever that an international movie actually won Best Picture. Or at the very least, this is the first time ever that a movie in which it is a non-English speaking movie actually won for Best Picture, and that it actually won, like, so many of these Oscars, and they are big Oscars as well. Like, these are big categories like Original Screenplay and also for Best Directing, which is why I didn't necessarily do all that great this year in terms of my ballots, because there's a lot of them that's very much unexpected. And from there, I also like to go and point out, there are some people that would say that when it comes to Bong Joon-ho, a lot of people would say that he actually broke a massive record where he actually ended up tied with Walt Disney for winning the most Oscars in 1 year. Which I will say and put on a clarification, where I would have to say, and I'm going to use my source on Yahoo Entertainment, where I gotta say yes and no at the same time, because yes, technically, Bong Joon-ho did get 4 Oscars, just like Walt Disney did back in 1954, when Walt won for Best Animated Short for Toot Whistle Pluck and Boom, Best Documentary Short for The Alaskan Eskimo, Best Documentary Feature for The Living Desert, and Best 2 Reel Short Sub... Oh, fudge, I'm gonna sneeze. Oh, fudge. Help me. Help me. Okay, it's not coming out. Anyways, and Best 2 Reel Short for Bear Country. But the thing is, the reason why I say yes and no is because of the Best International Feature Film category. Because for that one, that, like, you could debate maybe it's a yes for Bong Joon-ho, but then at the same time, no, because as this article states here, it says, while the individual record stands at 4, due to a technicality, it turns out Bong just narrowly misses the milestone accomplishment, as the award for Best International Film goes to a country and not an individual. So technically, that award does not specifically go for, it doesn't specifically go to Bong Joon-ho, but instead, it would go to the country, which is South Korea. And the reason why I need to point out that this is a massive surprise of the fact that Parasite actually did win is especially the fact that there was a lot of serious competition this year in terms of the Oscars for Best Picture, especially when a lot of them, like some people could say, would cater to the Oscars bias, the kind of movies that would normally get a lot of awards. And we actually did get several of them this year, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. For me, I thought that was going to be the big one that would win Best Picture, but it did not. Instead, it actually did win 2 Oscars for Best Supporting Actor for Brad Pitt, and also another one which is Best Production Design, but that was not the case. Like, I thought it would be the one that it would actually go and win, mainly because, for 2 reasons actually. Number 1, it's a movie about Hollywood. It's a movie about making movies, and usually the Oscars go crazy for that. They love these types of films. And usually they would go more towards those features, but in this case, that doesn't seem to be the case. I thought it would also be the one that would win some major awards as well. I thought it would be the one that would get, like, Best Original Screenplay. I thought that would be its big win right there, but Nope, that also ended up going to Parasite. Oh, and also number 2 as well. My second reason is mainly because of Quentin Tarantino, because as you guys know, Quentin Tarantino is an acclaimed auteur, and I thought they would go and give the Oscar to him for Best Picture because considering recently Quentin Tarantino did actually announce that he does have a bit of a timeline, or he does have a bit of a timer now, like he doesn't have much time left to go and produce more features. Not because he's dying, but he stated that he only has a few features left in his system before he officially retires from doing any more movies in general. So I thought the Oscars would go and rush things up so that just in case, if nothing else, then they can give the Oscar to him to say that Quentin Tarantino made a Best Picture movie. I thought they would go in that direction, but that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. But then there is also a few others as well, like 1917, which took the silver medal of the most Oscars, which did walk away with 3, in which it did receive, let me see here, it won for Best Cinematography, it won for Best Visual Effects, and it won for Best Sound Mixing. So from there, I will say, and just to make a quick comment about 1917, honestly, it is no real surprise that it did actually win the, it did actually win for Best Cinematography and Best Visual Effects, because that is another one that does cater to the Oscars bias of being not just a war movie, but a very cinematic war movie, where it's a lot more artsy in its style of filmmaking, which in the case of 1917, it's a movie where it gives out the illusion of being all one giant continuous take, which is actually not the case. It may look like it's all done in one continuous take, but in actuality, it is it is done through very clever use of cinematography and visual effects, in which both of them have to collaborate together to give this beautiful big illusion, which I could definitely understand how it ended up being the big winner. I think honestly it's another one of those predictable wins, especially for best cinematography, but still extremely well done and beautifully well crafted as well. So definitely some major points for 1917 onto that. And then there is one more that I want to mention that does cater to the Oscars bias, and that is not 1917. I already said 1917. I mean more The Irishman. And with The Irishman, that is a Martin Scorsese's mafia movie. And well, let's be honest, with Martin Scorsese's, he is another acclaimed auteur just like Quentin Tarantino, and usually with cinephiles and movie fans, and especially with the Oscars and stuff like that, they love Martin Scorsese's mafia movies. They love films like The Departed or The Goodfellas and stuff like that. That's kind of like his niche style of filmmaking. And with The Irishman, it's another great, massive achievement, especially when they brought back some major big-name stars that are very well known from these types of films, like Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, and even bringing back Joe Pesci, which they did give him a nomination for Best Supporting Actor, I believe. Yes, they did. They gave both Al Pacino and Joe Pesci a nomination. However, even though The Irishman did get 10 nominations, it didn't even have one single win. Like, a lot of people would debate that technically The Irishman is one of the biggest snubs, the fact that it didn't win a single Oscar this year, which is kind of surprising. But all this to say that even though there is a lot of these movies that do cater to the Oscars bias in different ways, it's actually quite shocking of the fact that they did go to Parasite. Like, I remember I talked to many of my friends who are major movie fans, and I remember that they told me that they were expecting one of these films to win, like 1917 or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but for them, their favorite pick, like in their hearts, what the movie they loved the most was Parasite. They adored that feature, and they thought that there would be no way that it would win. But then, last night, when it was announced as the Best Picture winner, they were freaking ecstatic. They were freaking out. They loved Parasite, and they adored it, and they were more than happy with the results. And I will say this, and maybe this is a little bit of an exaggeration because this is still like in the moment and all that stuff. But one thing that I do have to comment with the fact that Parasite did win, the first non-English speaking movie to win Best Picture, I got a feeling that this could actually be a major game changer in the Oscars. Like, who knows? This could actually go and open the door that it's not just within the confines of the Hollywood system, that it's only a Hollywood movie that has to win an Oscar. Like now with Parasite, it could actually open the door that more international features could actually get more recognition, and they could end up having a stronger chance of actually winning Best Picture. And I don't think it was Parasite, the only international movie that did get a nomination. I believe there was another one. Or I think there was. Let me just double check on it. Oh, okay, never mind. I don't know, sorry. I thought... No, like, I was because I was thinking about Pain and Glory, because that is also another movie that got a lot of nominations, especially Best Actor for Antonio Banderas, but that doesn't seem to be the case. But no, with Parasite, though, it's going to be very interesting in the future to see how the Oscars are going to go, and if they are going to be more open to give more wins to international movies. That I know that this is not necessarily the first time that we've seen something like Parasite or an international movie gathering a lot of Oscar nominations, even for Best Picture, but this is the first time that Parasite really broke the mold, even breaking through many big Hollywood movies from acclaimed directors, like breaking through a Quentin Tarantino movie, a Martin Scorsese movie, a Sam Mendes movie, and all that kind of stuff. Like, it broke through all that in order to get the big win. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Oscars are going to be onward, but this is not just going to be a win for Parasite, but this is also a major win for international movies in general. So now, it's not just in America that you could win a Best Picture category, but also any other movie from around the world, they could actually get their chance. And honestly, it feels very exciting to see. So, with that said, let's go and talk about some of the other winners as well. Now, I've already covered, like, the multiple award winners like 1917 and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but then you also got Ford versus Ferrari that actually did win 2 Oscars for Best Film Editing and also Best Sound Editing, which, by the way, I just want to make a comment, and I don't know if this has happened plenty of times before, but honestly, I feel like it's actually very strange, the fact that for the categories of Best Sound Editing and Best Sound Mixing, it actually went to 2 different movies. I don't know about you, but usually I am actually kind of used to seeing one movie in particular always winning both categories. It's like, okay, if you win one, then you're gonna get the other one, like it's a package. Like with for 1917, for example, I thought it was gonna win both, but no, it ended up winning just for sound mixing. And I do understand why something like Ford versus Ferrari would actually win a category like Best Sound Editing, especially the fact that it's a movie about cars. So, of course, sound effects are going to play a major factor, especially like if you want to feel like you're in the race, you want to feel like you're with Matt Damon and Christian Bale in those cars and stuff like that. Sound is a major factor in this movie. So, yeah, it definitely does deserve at least one of them. But I am actually kind of surprised that this little phenomenon did occur. I don't know if it actually did happen before. But then there is also Joker. Now, Joker is a very interesting one, considering that this is the movie that got the most nominations among all of them, getting 11 nominations, but only ended up with 2. The first of which being Best Original Score, which honestly, I found that one to be so suspicious with the way that they completely built it up. Because I will admit, like during the presentation and stuff like that, it was actually really, really cool. The way that they presented that, they emphasized like the girl power aspect, that they brought in Brie Larson, they got Gal Gadot, and yes, I have trained myself to say Gal Gadot instead of Gal Gadot, and also Sigourney Weaver. And they even got a female composer to do a little presentation of the movies that are nominated for Best Score and actually playing a little bit of their score. And then suddenly, the winner was Joker, which actually was a female composer, which in this case is Hildur Guðnadóttir. I think that's how you pronounce her name. If not, then I do sincerely apologize. But honestly, from there, I just felt like it was so suspicious of the fact that they built up this whole girl power aspect with Best Original Score, and then suddenly they gave it to a female composer. It's like, wait a minute, something's a little bit up. And now this is not to say that she did not deserve that win. She definitely does. But I don't know, I feel like that whole build-up, it was like a full-on wait a minute moment where, like when she was giving her award speech, that's when it clicked on my head where I was like, wait a minute, something's a little bit off here. But then also, there is the other win that it got for Best Actor for Joaquin Phoenix's performance as the Joker himself. And I just need to make a quick comment about his Best Actor win, and mostly because the thing is, with Joaquin Phoenix, like, this isn't the only one where he actually won Best Actor for his performance in Joker. In fact, that's probably the common one where he actually won Best Actor. But what I find to be so hilarious of the fact that Joaquin Phoenix won for Joker is the fact that he is using his newly elevated platform to dish out as many commentary of social issues as much as possible. Because the funny thing with the Joker is that, now this does not reflect on all the fans of the Joker, but there is a prominent anti-SJW fan base within the Joker, that they would misinterpret the movie thinking that somehow it's a movie that speaks to them, that it's all society's fault, and that we should blame everything that's around us. We're fine, we're the victims, we're innocent, but it's society that makes us evil and crazy and do all these bad things, and we should hail Joker as the hero. You know, all that kind of delusional interpretations of the Joker and stuff like that, that only an idiot would think that it would be logical to read the Joker that way. And then, here comes Joaquin Phoenix, where every time he wins an award, I can guarantee you the internet would read him like a frickin' SJW. Because the thing is, Joaquin Phoenix, like, if you have never seen his acceptance speeches, you really should. Because it's kind of hilarious to see the irony that he's using his his newly elevated platform of this movie that many people could say is an anti-woke culture film, which honestly it's not. Using that in order to go and use it to bring up social issues and to take, and to encourage to take action on it. Like a great example, the BAFTAs, when he won Best Actor for that, he made a massive commentary on systematic racism, where he called out the BAFTAs and other award shows as well for not nominating people of color as much as they should, and even stating that he, as a white man, is a part of the problem. So honestly, I knew that Joaquin Phoenix was going to win the Best Actor category, but the one thing I was more excited to see was what would be the subject he would get into. And in this case, he decided to go into environmentalism and animal rights, which is not necessarily the first time someone would use that platform to win an Oscar and talk about those subjects in particular. But honestly, it was interesting to see that he would go with that one for the Oscars. And keep in mind, it's not saying, I'm definitely not saying that Joaquin Phoenix is crazy, because honestly, with all his acceptance speeches, he's definitely right on that. And even with the Oscar acceptance speech, like, he's definitely right. And it was a great speech there. So overall with that, it was honestly a very interesting thing to note. And also, I would like to go and make one quick commentary regarding the fact that Joker did actually win, not win, but the fact that Joker did actually get so many of these nominations, that Joker ended up getting like 11 nominations, more than literally any other movie. And for that one, like, I feel like they did that not because they legitimately feel like Joker is such a great movie and stuff like that, but I feel like they gave Joker all those nominations for marketing purposes. Because here's the thing. We know very well that Joker is a very divided movie. That you got those people that absolutely love it, but you also got those people that absolutely hate it as well. Like, the opinions of it is all over the place. But in the case of Joker, the fact that they gave it 11 nominations, they know that for the Oscars, it's a big marketing tactic to have people really talk about the Oscars, to really get the subject of the Oscars trending on social media, and have people talk about it if it's something that it does deserve it or not. Which some people say it definitely doesn't, and it's a little bit too much, but that is the point. It's not because, like, it legitimately earned many of these nominations, but it's to get people talking. That's the whole point of it. And honestly, you can't say that it didn't work. It did manage to succeed on its job to get people talking about the Oscars and to make the subject of the Joker controversial all over again. It's kind of a mentality of there's no such thing as bad publicity. So honestly, that's honestly my take on why Joker ended up getting all these different nominations. And then also, there is the other nominations that is worth talking about. Just to list them down, of course, you got Best Actress went to Renee Zellweger for Judy. Then you also got Laura Dern winning Best Supporting Actress for Marriage Story. Then let's see here. You got Best Adapted Screenplay, which did go to Taika Waititi for Jojo Rabbit. And honestly, with considering how Jojo Rabbit is another one that did get a whole bunch of nominations, it did get 6 nominees, including Best Picture, I do feel like it definitely is time that, considering how popular Taika Waititi is right now, and is becoming more and more of a big name, acclaimed filmmaker himself, like, I think it's about time that they would give him an Oscar, and I guess with Jojo Rabbit, that would be the best time to do it. Anyways, going back to here, we also got Best Documentary Feature, which went to American Factory. There was Best Documentary Short, which went to Learning to Skateboard in a War Zone, If You're a Girl. There's Best Live Action Short Film that went to The Neighbor's Window. Let's see here. There is hold on a sec. Yes, there is Best Costume Design that went to Little Women. There's Best Makeup and Hairstyling that went to Bombshell. And finally, Best Original Song that went to I'm Gonna Love Me Again. Which, honestly, that one is another one that is not a major surprise, considering that, of course, they gotta give the Best Original Song category to Elton John, because Elton John did an Elton John song in an Elton John movie. And after hearing all the songs during the Oscars, honestly, for me, that wouldn't be my first pick. Like, if I would have to choose, personally, I would go with Stand Up. Because during the Oscars, it was my first time hearing it, and holy crap, that is an epic and powerful song. Like, that was one where, like, that was a highlight during the Oscars for me, because that song really blew me away, especially the whole, the whole presentation of it. That was also great as well, and, like, that was kind of like an extra cherry on top to the song itself, but that was such a great song, and honestly, I feel like Stand Up should have gotten that win, but no, it's of course, we gotta give it to I Gotta Love Me Again, because again, it is Elton John with the Elton John song for the Elton John movie. But some people do say, well, at least Bernie, his partner Bernie Taupin did finally receive his Oscar as well. Like an Oscar with his own name on it. So that's pretty much the entire list of all the other Oscar winners. And I want to know, what do you all think about the rest of the winners? How do you feel about Parasite being the big winner? Are there any snubs that you feel happen? Are there any surprises? Let me know what you all think in the chat wall. Let's see now. Oh, someone even mentioned that now Elton John is an E away from getting an EGOT. Well, I mean, keep in mind, Elton John already has a few Oscars beforehand, especially with The Lion King, so, I mean, that's nothing necessarily new. Let's see now. Let's see. I tweeted out that if a film other than 1917 won Best Picture, I would tweet out the clip of John Cena screaming, "Bologna, fudge, and mustard!" Either way, this is history in the making and entirely makes up for Green Book winning last year. Oh yeah, that thing. I'd like to give major congrats to the team behind Parasite. I still posted the clip though. Still disappointed that it ain't 1917. But hey, it did win more Oscars than most. It did get the 3 Oscars, and especially the well-deserved one of cinematography and best visual effects. At least there was that. Let's see here. Parasite was my favorite movie of the year, with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as my second favorite. I'm very happy to see it win, as I predicted correctly, surprisingly in terms of Oscar predictions, and rightfully so. So one of the best films I've seen in the 2010 decade, so I think people should see it, as a historical masterpiece to show that any film outside of Hollywood that can win Best Picture. Congrats to Bong Joon-ho for the historic win, and we love you to continue to make movies like this as you like. Absolutely, man. That's the best way to put it. Alright. Let's see here. Well, for my results and my predictions, I got 19 out of 24. Oh my god, you lucky dude. I only got 13. Let's see here. Including getting Best Picture right since Birdman. Also, everyone knew The Irishman was going to be the only picture nominee that wasn't going to get nothing, or was going to get nothing, and the second Scorsese film to get double-digit nominations and no wins. First one being Gangs of New York. Overall, fine with all the winners, but nothing that is disastrous or that went back or what we're back to talk about later. Especially. Let's see now. I think Toy Story 4 should have won for Best Song. The song was enjoyably catchy. I don't know, honestly. For me, I was a bit indifferent. Like, I heard that and I was like, it didn't necessarily do much. Like, for me, like, I would rather, like, still, like I said, I still rather Stand Up, and I even would rather Into the Unknown from Frozen 2. Like, I put the Toy Story 4 song up there with the Elton John song. Let's see. Joker wasn't a movie worth of winning Best Picture, regardless of what it would do for superhero flicks. It was a rather mediocre slog fest. It was okay, but not the best portrayal of mental health. I'm glad it got snubbed. Well, I mean, like I said, I don't think it really got snubbed per se. I think it did get lucky that it did get all those nominations for the sake of marketing the Oscars and stuff like that. Now, rather if it actually paid off and it helped boost up the ratings and stuff like that, we'll have to wait and see. And here, I'll read one more before we jump on to the next thing. My friend, who is part South Korean and Japanese, he was in tears when Parasite was a winner. You have no idea how amazing Parasite is. It is in my top 10 movies of 2019. You've seen it, right? Saw it twice in theaters. Personally, I will have to say not yet. but I'm definitely planning to. I really want to see it right now, especially when I have family members even telling me that I need to go see it. So, definitely in my must-watch list. Okay, now... Okay, so now that we have covered all the winners, there is only one more thing to go and discuss, and that is the show itself. And I will say, for the show, I would say that it's good. You know, not great, but, you know, it was good. You know, a lot of great and heartfelt moments, but at the same time, there was a lot of cringy moments. Oh, boy. Like, the first thing I'll go and talk about, I might as well get all the awkward moments out of the way. First off, you got the opening, which you have Janelle Monáe and Billy Porter, which, it starts off on a strange note, but still nice, I guess, with Janelle Monáe singing "Won't You Be My Neighbor," as reference to the Tom Hanks Mr. Rogers movie, which is called A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. But then suddenly, like, she goes on to this musical number singing songs like "Come Alive," "The War of the Rose," and also "I'm Still Standing," which, honestly, it's hard to really say how that was, to be honest. It was like, all that was pretty much happening at the same time, and I think the best way to put it was awkward. Like, I was just there like, well, that was that was something. I don't know what that was, but it was an opening. I guess, was that an opening? Yeah, I guess that's an opening. It was weird, honestly, but thankfully, in order to wash off that awkwardness, we actually got Steve Martin and Chris Rock, coming in with their comedy in order to lighten up the mood after that. And it did give me a bit of a positive feeling that, okay, things will go, things won't be as awkward following what we just witnessed. So, honestly, it's great to see Steve Martin and Chris Rock lightening up the mood for the Oscars. And I love, and honestly, in the past, I love Steve Martin and Chris Rock, what they have done with their hosting job. And they did a great job as well, giving out a little bit of comedy and breaking the ice to enter into the Oscars. So it definitely was great seeing those two, and definitely two of the best, definitely some of the best presenters that we've gotten so far. But then we also did get some awkward moments. You know what? Okay, I might as well get this one out of the way. There was one where it was just, oh god, it was like ready for the nightmare fuel for me. It was the moment when they brought in James Corden and Rebel Wilson. And if you guys didn't know what happened, they were coming, like, immediately the second they came in, it was just, oh god, no. Like, you could see disaster just waiting to happen before your eyes. Because there was recently a bit of a connection between Rebel Wilson and James Corden. The fact that they appeared in Cats. And yes, they had to make a reference because they both came in dressed up like their respective characters from Cats. And the moment they walked in, I couldn't help but feel like Bad Ape from War of the Planet of the Apes. Like, the moment they stepped onto the stage, I was just there like, oh no, oh no, oh no, 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 oh no. It was, now I get, like, okay, but here's the thing though. I do understand what they were trying to do because they were presenting best visual effects and they were being self-aware that the visuals of Cats are terrible and stuff like that. It was all one big joke, but still, like, seeing them dressed up in their characters as cats and doing that whole that whole self-aware shtick, like, you can't help but feel sorry for these actors. You can't help but feel sorry for James Corden and Rebel Wilson for doing that. Like, oh god, like, their presence alone and what they did, that was already a disaster in itself. But thankfully, straight afterwards, just like the opening, like, there was a moment where things were lightened up with some great comedy. Like, you got Sandra Oh and Ray Romano coming in, and they provided some great comedy as well. So they helped wash off what we just saw. It washed off the cats. Like, it washed off cat. That's what it did, basically. Oh, but if I do need to go and point out, if I do have to point out who would be among the worst presenters ever at this year's Oscars, the ones that are just filled with cringe, it has to be Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph. Now, I don't know why. I don't know if this was something that they set up before, or that maybe they were just stalling for time because the Oscars was a little too ahead of schedule. But oh my god. Like, they weren't even doing jokes. Like, they were stalling. That's all they were doing. They were freaking stalling, and they were only presenting Best Production Design and Best Costume Design. And oh my god, it was just not funny. I don't think it was the first time that they were doing stuff like that. So I think last year they were also at the Oscars presenting as well. And oh my, it's just, oh god, it was just painful to sit through. Oh my god, like with Maya Rudolph's performance, like, it's right, like, oh my god, like, I know that and I'm not saying that these actresses are terrible. Like, with Maya Rudolph, she has already appeared in some amazing things, and Kristen Wiig, she was already nominated for an Oscar, but after what we've just seen, with their performance at the Oscars, oh my god, especially for Maya Rudolph, like, it is right up there in the levels of cringe as much as what she did with the Emoji Movie and the Nut Job films. And honestly, they gotta stop. They need to stop bringing them in to be presenters. They just had to. It's just, what they did was terrible. And I mean, some people could say the same thing with another one that came in not long ago. What was it? With Will Ferrell and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I mean, like, yeah, theirs wasn't that great as well, but they were kind of funny. You know, they did get a chuckle out of me, but with the Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph one, like, oh god, that was terrible. Like, good god, please don't ever do that again. But even though there are some negatives and there are some cringy moments, oh, and there is one more that I do need to bring up. Like, I don't know why they had to bring in, there was somehow this one rapper, I think they mentioned this here. Oh, actually, there were a couple of things that I do need to bring up. There was this one moment, I just need to go and find his name. They need to, like, they must have mentioned it at some point. Who is that rapper there? No, it's not Stand Up, no. Like, okay, I don't know what it is, but there was at one point where they brought it, or, is it this one, or, yeah, or, no, I don't know, I don't know what it is. Okay, hold on, no, it's right here. Okay, yeah, it's, hold on. Utkarsh Ambudkar. Yeah, Utkarsh Ambudkar. Like, they somehow brought him in order to do some kind of rap to recap who were the winners and what happened during the show. And I was just standing here thinking, like, did somebody ask for this? I didn't order this. Did somebody order a rap number? Like, it felt honestly kind of random. And then also, there was another moment that I felt like it was kind of weird and it was random as well. It was honestly the Eminem number. The one where he had to sing, what was it? Like, he sang Lose Yourself. Like, honestly, it wasn't a bad number. It was actually really cool. And it was actually great as well, where they pretty much showed this montage of how music has a major influence in movies and how some songs are forever linked to their respective movies. And then they ended up with Eminem doing a live performance of Lose Yourself. Now, some people told me that it was because it was like years in the making, because Eminem didn't have a chance when 8 Mile was big at the time back in 2002, that he didn't sing Lose Yourself at the Oscars at the time, and it was like kind of a bit of a comeback for that there. and honestly, for me, like, it was a great number. It was awesome. But I was watching it and I had to ask, what was the point of it? Because I didn't really know, like, what was the whole purpose of that. Because with Lose Your, like, I try to find out, like, if maybe there's an anniversary for Lose Yourself. Maybe it's something special with Eminem or something like that. I don't know. It just felt like a bit of an out-of-place random moment. Maybe it's just me, but I don't know. I felt like that moment was a bit random. But with all that said, though, there have been some moments that were pretty positive for me, some highlights that I would like to mention, and some presenters that were great. Now, I already mentioned that I really liked Steve Martin and Chris Rock, and also with Ray Romano and Sandra Oh, but there were a few other moments that I really enjoyed, like Best Live Action Short Film, where they did have a bit of a Peanut Butter Falcon reunion. I just need to know the names where they got here. Yeah, where they got Shia LaBeouf and Zach Gottsagen to go and present it as well. And if you guys don't know, Zach Gottsagen, he actually does have Down syndrome, which does play a big factor in the movie The Peanut Butter Falcon. And, you know, the way that he presented, I think Zach actually did do a great job. And it was a very cute moment as well. So, you know, that was very sweet. That was actually very nice to see that. There was also another one as well. Oh, and, well, I already did mention about Best Original Score with Gal Gadot, Sigourney Weaver, and Brie Larson. I already did mention about that one as well. And then, there is, hold on, there is one thing that I would like to mention. One thing that was actually great, it was actually the In Memoriam section. Now, the In Memoriam section, of course, like many other years, it is a little bit controversial because they did forget some actors, including Luke Perry and stuff like that. But in this case, with, I will say, like, with this In Memoriam, oh my god, like, it was definitely, this was definitely a sad moment and definitely a teary-eyed moment, but very well done as well, where they brought in Billie English and Phineas O'Connell to do a very tearful rendition of the Beatles' Yesterday, where they would go and honor many people that have passed away from 2019 up to this year, which they did include Kobe Bryant, and they also added in other people like Terry Jones and Kirk Douglas, and also a moment that they mentioned Richard Williams as well, highlighting his contribution to Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But I gotta say, that little moment, that little rendition of Yesterday, like, that was extremely heartfelt. So I definitely love that one. And one more thing I would like to talk about is actually regarding the musical numbers as well. And there were some that were okay, you know, some that were good, some that were okay. You know, like the one for I'm Standing With You, that was, you know, that was pretty nice. That was pretty good. Like, and then there were ones that were okay, I guess. Like, you know, they did some nice some nice decorations for I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away, making it all cloud themed with Toy Story 4, and then I'm Gonna Love Me Again, really going all out on the whole Elton John theme. And I already mentioned that one of the big standout moments for me is Stand Up, which was an epic musical number that they have done. But then there was also another one, which I felt like was a great highlight, and that was Into the Unknown. And I just want to make this quick comment right now. I know that for many people, Into the Unknown was not particularly their favorite. It is a great song, but for many people, they do prefer some of the others, especially Show Yourself. And I just want to mention that I did talk to my friends, and I finally realized why is it that the Oscars nominated Into the Unknown, and why Disney heavily marketed Into the Unknown as the next Let It Go instead of Show Yourself. And there is one major reason, and it all makes sense. Spoilers! Because Show Yourself is a very spoiler-filled movie. Like, that's the one that really did reveal about who's the voice and who Elsa's looking for and all that kind of stuff. They can't immediately go and present Show Yourself But with Into the Unknown, it is more of a safer take. Like, it's kind of the same thing. It's the big Elsa musical number, considering the movie does have two of them. But with Into the Unknown, that's the one that's less spoilery than Show Yourself. Because Into the Unknown, that's the one that that's kind of like the beginning, the one that brings us into the adventure. And that's the big... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, wait. Is it going on? Sorry. Oh, wait a minute. No. I believe I'm still going. Sorry. I just got a little distracted from my screen on okay, no. Yeah, okay, it's going fine. Sorry about that. Anyways, back to what I was talking about. Oh, yes. So, you guys understand what I mean with Into the Unknown. It's not as spoiler-filled as Show Yourself, so that's why Disney heavily marketed that more than Show Yourself. But anyways, going back into the Oscar performance, I felt like it actually did do a great job. With this one, it's not just any regular musical number. I mean, the set looks great and stuff like that, but what they did with the Into the Unknown number, they did something a little bit more. They brought in Aurora and Idina Menzel to sing it, but at the same time, they also brought on board many of the other actresses that voice Elsa in different countries to sing Into the Unknown in their respective language. And I will say, I just saw this on social media, but one thing that was massively trending was that everyone fell in love with the Thai version of Elsa. I forgot her name. I believe, no, it's not you. It's, is it her? Or I don't, yes, okay, it is her with Gam Wichayani. With her, apparently, like on social media right now, people are freaking out about the Thai version of Elsa. And I will say, she's definitely a really pretty and beautiful woman. And, but I do find that it is kind of funny that people are just absolutely freaking out about her, and that was like the big highlighted moment. But overall, with the Into the Unknown number, I felt like it was very well done and easily one of the best musical numbers presented at this year's Oscars. It was definitely a lot of fun. It was very creative the way that they presented it. So honestly, that was an amazing job right there. And even after all the animation categories, definitely fantastic, and especially a great introduction from Josh Gad as well. So overall, that was definitely great. So that's why I would go and say that with the whole presentation, that's why I would say that it was good. You definitely have a lot of great moments that were a lot of fun, that were really memorable and really well crafted, but at the same time, there were a lot of times that were just very cringy as well. So with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I want to ask you guys, if you have seen this year's Oscar ceremony, what did you think of it? Did you think that it was great? Did you think it was terrible? Did you like it? Did you think it was awkward? Let me know what you all think of the chat wall now. Let's see. Does anybody have any comments? I'm surprised people are going a little slow. Do we have any, does anybody have anything to say? It was okay. Let's see. Oh, someone thought Billie English's singing yesterday was a little shanky. What do you think? Honestly, I'm not that familiar with Billie English. For me, I have no problems with it. I think it was really lovely and very tear-felt. Like, it's the kind of rendition that you would hear in a funeral, per se. Let's see. I have no interest, but it is a shame that Frozen 2 didn't get an Oscar as Disney would have hoped. I mean, come on, dude. Bruh. Disney already got the Oscar with Toy Story 4. What more can you ask for, man? Let's see. I only saw the clips of each of the musical segments, like Into the Unknown is possibly the best. Yeah, definitely up there. For me, it's Into the Unknown and Stand Up that were truly the standout musical numbers. Oh, there we go. While the show was disastrous for some of the things you mentioned, the only downgrade were Taron Egerton didn't perform the Elton John song since he did perform the song with him, and in overran 30 minutes over I was really tired this morning. Yeah, definitely. Oh, and there is one thing that I gotta mention. I don't know if this is just my feed, but did it ever happen where there were a few instances where suddenly it got completely muted? I remember there were a few times, like during Brad Pitt's acceptance speech at the start, and also during Elton John's acceptance speech, where there was at one point the whole audio just got cut off. Like, that's it. And technically, I think there was another technical difficulty when Parasite won the Oscar, where suddenly the lights were out or something like that, and then suddenly the whole crowd was cheering until they were back on. So yeah, of course this year they did have their share of technical difficulties as well. Let's see. The only bit that fell flat was the cat's bit. I don't think what it was trying to do. I know. Let's see. Is there anything else? It was muted because there were some things you can't say on TV. Well, I understand that. But honestly, I don't know, because there were times I know there were some bits that was just for censoring, but there were moments though that it did sound like technical difficulties. Like, if they were censoring something, I think they censored a whole lot more than they should have. I'm just putting that out there. Let's see. Apparently, people like Tom Hanks, Adam Driver, Mario Rudolph, and many others at the Oscars really want I Lost My Body to win the Oscar, apparently. They were big fans of it, and insert with many, with the audience members were, why is that movie so good? Really? Honestly, I still need to rewatch that again, because honestly, I don't know, at least for my first viewing, it didn't necessarily click with me as much as some of the others. Like, I'm honestly kind of surprised that it's getting such massive acclaim. Like, I really need to watch it to understand it. Okay. The show itself looks kind of good, except for some cringing moments like the Razzie-nominated Wilson and Corden as cats, and Wig and Rudolph stalling performance, which reminds me of Mindy and the King Triton moment. Anyways, the best ones are Stand Up, girl power moment, along with a woman composer playing different music, and Brad Pitt's speech. Oh yeah, definitely Brad Pitt's speech was pretty epic too. I think it is a bit better than last year, but good overall. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And I think with all that said, that should go and conclude this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Now, don't worry, things will be back to normal on Saturday, where I will get back to just talking about the regular animation news. But with all that said, I just want to go and say thank you all so much for joining me on this special episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for listening. And until next time, see you later, dudes!